5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Well, we're going to kick off with Tom Fishburne. I love to start my week that way. So he says it's a keyword block list so our ads don't run next to unsafe content. Nothing that could be sensitive or controversial or objectionable or debatable or vaguely problematic or the slightest bit risky. That rules out the entire internet. So let's just wear this on a street corner instead. As usual, Tom makes a great point. And also, in case you don't get his cartoons, he makes the point down below for us slow boomers that don't get it. Excuse me, I'm going to knock myself out laughing. Okay. So brand safety has been high on marketers' agendas since the 2017 YouTube crisis when advertisers found their ads next to terrorist videos or, child content videos. And now every time I post, well, now there's a default, thank heaven, because for I don't know how many months I had to say not made for children. Obviously, though it starts with a cartoon, and maybe marketers could be thought of it metaphorically as children, it's not made for children. So now at least it defaults. But, we went to this big, YouTube went to this big campaign where you had to designate things all the time. And I'm not sure people who are breaking the rules are going to follow the rules. But anyway, so what people did was make all these blacklists. And Scott Adams, who I watch almost daily, tested some provocative troll headlines, and YouTube blocks. I think YouTube still blocks him every day because of his headlines, and then unblocks him if he appeals. But since most people watch it when it first posts, it means that he essentially makes no money on YouTube anymore, which is why he's gone to locals. And other great content providers are leaving because of these blunt tool issues that hurt really, that penalize legitimate content and make it harder to find audiences, limiting reach and engagement. So if you're ever going to say something controversial, which I say something controversial probably every day, you don't want, as an advertiser, you don't want to just have this huge laundry list of phrases that you think might be mentioned in unsafe content. And in fact, CNN reports that 50% of news content is being misclassified. Okay, 50%. Let's see. That means we could toss a coin without regard to the content itself and be just as accurate. That's probably a sign that this isn't working. Okay? So recent press coverage of BLM and protests was affected in a particular way, monetized 57% lower than other news content, like half. Okay? Half as well, which may be why all the networks stopped covering it. It may have nothing to do with whether it was worth covering or it was big news, which it seemed like it was. But all of a sudden, everybody stopped covering all of the protests. And I'm not exactly sure why. It looks like I got allergies. My eye itches. So Tom is calling, and Unilever's Luis DeComo is calling for better definitions that we have for the content in the platform. The better the choices we have, the better the definitions, the better the choices. And we'll get on to a really interesting approach. Local advertisers have largely disregarded this whole issue because, we actually have another business besides the modeling business where we work with small local pharmacies, independently owned pharmacies, and post Facebook ads on about 30 or 40 Facebook pages around the country. And they just kept going. They kept going right through the coronavirus thing. Basically, local brands don't care what the national advertisers are doing. And one of the things about Facebook that makes it so attractive to local small business is that you can define a fairly tight area. Not quite as tight as the Postal Service with their Every Door Direct, which I highly encourage you to look into if you are a local small business. Every Door Direct gives you a great ability, even in my town, to highlight the different income areas a little bit, the different different sides of town. It's what is it, a 2,000 or a 6,000 population, sort of getting to be a suburb kind of community. But it gives you that ability. And I've noticed the same thing around Fitchburg up by Madison. So 41% said they totally ignore what the brands do. Facebook, this is an interesting statistic. Facebook has an incredibly consistent 88% use among small businesses. That rate has never happened before with any medium, even the Yellow Page books. Okay? So Facebook is really making it on the small businesses and really putting out the little local newspapers, putting them out of business. And that's why we made the switch about 8 or 10 years ago. Okay, 65% of marketers said they had better trust in Facebook's reporting metrics, which I thought was also interesting. Only 39% said they had some trust in Yelp data. The funny part is Yelp only gets a 2 rating or so on itself on Yelp. If you add up the reviews, 2 out of 5. So even Yelp doesn't rate on Yelp. That's just a funny deal. Okay, don't sleep on the Midwest's business prowess. It's home to monster companies and serious brain power. So we're talking about local business again. The Midwest was responsible for 20% of America's gross domestic product, but received only 5% of venture funding. I think that implies that we do a better job with the use of capital. It implies it. I'm not sure it's true. There's other statistics we could look to, but we're going to go with that one. 60% of all U.S. manufacturing happens in the Midwest, right? And less than 20% of the people. 25% of the nation's computer science grads come out of there. 20% or so of all U.S. patents. 150 of Fortune 500 companies, which is more than 25%, almost 30%. So, 16 of the country's top 50 ranked medical schools, 5 of the 25 best computer science ones, and 17 of 63 leading research universities. So, if you're in the Midwest, you might want to stay here for school. I don't think we appreciate it enough. That's why I'm doing this article. And Madison, Wisconsin was the top of their list. At top of their Brookings Institute list of the top 15 potential growth centers. So go Midwest, young man. And I agree with that. Okay, here's a really cool way to address that situation that we mentioned earlier with Tom Fishburne. Okay, it's always been argued that cookies are more profitable, using cookies. The idea of cookies is that I'm on a computer, I swing past ESPN. I don't like most of the sports news they put up, but I want to see the standings, let's say in Major League Baseball, and which are a little spotty right now. Anyway, because some teams decided they didn't want to play, and other teams are playing. But that aside, it was late. It was nice. We didn't have to play the Cardinals, which usually is our nemesis, especially in St. Louis. But anyway, so I swing by the ESPN, and I get not only an ESPN cookie, but a third-party cookie, which is what they're mostly talking about. And then we infer from that I care about, let's say, NBA basketball or a host of other sports that I don't really care about. I like that Milwaukee has a good team, and so I watch the highlights now and then. But I generally don't even like NBA or NFL, generally. But you infer that I do because I went and swung by ESPN. Okay? And so what it's turning out, and here's another good example, visit the website for cat poop spaceship just once, and internet ads will never let you live it down, right? So the third parties follow you around every other website you go to, and they infer, and this is the key word, they infer not only your interests, but what you might buy next. Which is, as I've pointed out many times, a difficult game to play since I don't know what I'll buy next. But you can advertise with that assumption. Now, here's something interesting. Dutch media giant NPO. Now, I don't know anything about them, but you get international news here too. Banned cookies this winter, and revenues shot up more than 60% in January and February. Okay, NPO's old school approach is called, here, listen to this, contextual advertising. Instead of targeting users and following them around, ads match the topic of an article. So if you're reading about bar food surplus, I don't even know what that means, but anyway, NPO will sell you buffalo wings. Okay, so if you're reading about bar food, then they might put an ad up for get them at home, especially with the coronavirus lockdown back in March and April and everything. Condé Nast and the New York Times are testing cookie-free diets. They sell you based on your reading history on their sites, not on the entire internet. What an idea. And of course, in the mailing list business, we've done this forever. Forever. LL Bean got started by renting the list of hunting license purchasers from the state of Maine, hunting and fishing, I believe. And Leon, or what, Mr. LL Bean, rented that list and advertised a boot, I believe, that was waterproof, really waterproof, like a rubber boot. And that's how he got started. Did he follow these people around the whole internet? No. He thought hunters would like this. Fishermen would like this. Expanded into waders and expanded and expanded and expanded, and they keep expanding today. That's context, right? He liked them. He was a hunter and fisherman. Maybe they'll like him, and the rest is history. But here's the controversial part. Google studied and said that the third-party cookies boost ad revenue by 50%, but research suggests that it's close to zilch. Does Google have a vested interest? You know, they're banning third-party cookies, but Google cookies will follow you just the same. Google is bigger than any of the third parties. So Google will take your Chrome searches and keep track and tell people they can predict what you'll buy based on that data. Good luck with that. Google itself can still use your Chrome history, not just your searches, but your browser history to serve up all the cat poop it wants. What do you think of that? Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart. I'm John Miglosh. Have a great day. Bye-bye.